Ta-da! I am not talking about any fancy biochemical stuff, first of all. I am talking about a piece of research that CCLG have just funded. The money's just come through, so it's more like Jess's first talk and trying to gauge ideas about whether what we're doing is right and whether it all makes sense. And this is the title of what we submitted to CCLG. It's a mouthful, bear with me. Does routine surveillance imaging improve survival after relapsed extracranial solid tumours, a systematic review and meta-analysis? But I like this title for three things, three concepts in there. The first one is routine surveillance imaging. Now, what on earth is that? That is when you've had childhood cancer and you've finished your treatment, and we hope your childhood cancer has gone away. So we either can't see it at all, or we can see it but we think it's dead. We keep looking at that tumour by doing x-rays or ultrasounds or CTs or MRIs of the place where it was originally or places where it might come back. And we might do that every 3 months or every 6 months, and we might do it for 2 years or 5 years or as long as we do it. That regular scanning to look for cancer coming back is just called routine surveillance imaging. That's the posh term, just regular scans. Okay. The second thing I like about this title is extracranial solid tumour. Again, fancy words for something quite simple. I'm talking about any kind of cancer that's not a brain tumour, cranial, and that's not liquid, leukemia. So neuroblastoma, Wilms tumour, rhabdomyosarcoma, Ewing's, osteo, all of those, definitely yes. This is causing problems in our team because my team keep going, what about this one? And I'm like, yeah, what about this one? Is it a brain tumour? Is it leukemia? No, then yes, we're interested. Any kind of cancer. And the third great thing about this title is the systematic review and meta-analysis. And this is the bit I've been really stressing about explaining to you. And then Bob got up and did a whole talk about what a systematic review is. So you already know. It's gathering up all of the information about a research question and mushing it together, technical word, adding it all up to tell us what the answer is to that research question. And sometimes it's that puzzle that has big gaps in it. And to be honest, I think that's what we're going to find. So that's three great things in this title. But I don't like this title anymore. I'm sorry, you've funded us, and I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is that middle bit, improve survival. I think that's important, but I think there's a lot else that is important in this area. And so I'm changing the title of my talk. I'm ruining your handout. And I'm just going to call this Scans After Cancer Treatment. Are they helpful or are they not? And that's what we're trying to find out. Now, my name's Jess Morgan. I'm a clinical lecturer, which means I spend 50% of my time being a registrar on the wards, doing discharge summaries, etc. And I spend 50% of my time doing research at the University of York. I want you to have my email address, and I want you to have my Twitter handle. I want to be a researcher you can talk to, and I want you to tell me, particularly when I'm getting it wrong, because that helps me to know how to do it better. One of the most amazing things that we've done so far in this research is PPI, so patient and public involvement. That's an adult phrase because I think we need PPI, patient, parent and public. And this is where we held a group. This is the University of York. It's the pretty bit. Our building is built in the 1970s and it's got drafty windows and I can see a concrete wall. But this is the pretty bit of the University of York, and we spoke to lots of people through this group and through phone calls, before and after, about what's important in this research. I've spoken to people who had cancer as a young child and who are now grown up, as teenagers who are still teenagers, to parents whose children have gone through routine scanning and never had a relapse, and to parents whose children have had a relapse. I've spoken to loads of people about this. And these guys have really inputted onto why we're not doing the first title and we're doing a bit more of a broader look. So I'm delighted that they've done that, and hopefully you might want to do a bit too. So I have to talk about survival. It is probably the bottom line, the key thing that our PPI group said, we have to establish, is this helpful in terms of survival before we think about all the other things? Okay, so if you scan children regularly after their treatment for childhood cancer, do you pick up their relapse earlier? And if you pick up a relapse earlier, can you provide a treatment that is then better in terms of survival in the long term or quality of survival? We've talked about all of these things. And the thing is, that feels intuitive. It feels like if we do lots of scans, we'll pick it up earlier and it will be better. But I know there are studies out there that are casting doubt on that. So it might be that we're not picking things up earlier because between the scans, a child develops a relapse and symptoms of that relapse that we aren't picking up because we're scanning later. Okay? Or it could be that we're picking up relapse on scans, but then actually we don't have a better treatment to offer. So all we're doing is bringing things earlier without providing a survival or quality of life benefit. So we have to figure out those number things somewhere in our review. That's going to be tricky. But even more than that, you might have heard of this scanxiety. I can't say it, scanxiety. Anxiety around those scans. And if you're sitting in this room and you're a parent or a patient, you can probably tell me more about this than I know as a professional. But I've been listening. And what people talk about is this sore tooth, and I'm hoping people are going to start nodding at me, that as you come up to a scan, the anxiety does this, and then you have the scan, and then the day of results come, and if that scan's fine, relief, yeah? But then it's 3 months to the next scan, and the date's coming, and it's in your head, and you know it's in June, and then down again. And you get this sore-toothed anxiety that if you're not having scans might be more constant, but it's a different kind of pattern. And your anxiety, from what people tell me, can change over time. When you're just coming off treatment, it's quite reassuring to come and see the people who've treated you all the way through, to pop into the hospital, to feel like you're being checked up on. But actually 3, 4, 5 years out, it just brings it really close again. And you think, oh gosh, we're going to go back to the hospital. And teenagers in particular have said to me, that's really tough because I'm getting on with life and suddenly I have to think about my cancer again. And so if it's not helpful in terms of survival or quality of survival to do that, it might be beneficial not to do it. But everyone feels different. And you might find in your family, one person is like, yeah, I want a scan, I want to be reassured. And other people are like, no way, Jose, I don't want to walk in the doors of the hospital, I don't want that scan. And that's okay. It might be that as time goes on and your child grows up, where before it didn't really bother them about scans, they're becoming more aware of what a scan might mean. And you don't want to put them through that. And so there's lots of qualitative stuff about experience in routine surveillance imaging that also needs to be in our review. We need to find out what people have found out about that and whether we have any research about whether routine scanning makes anxiety better or worse. We also need to do all the little bitty things, like cost, parking. Oh my goodness, hospital parking. I'm not employed by my hospital. I get seconded to them, so I don't have a parking permit. I understand the hospital parking issue. All the other bits. What about incidental findings? If you've had an incidental finding on a scan, you may know what I'm talking about. That, well, there might be something there might not, and we just need to wait and see and scan again, or we might need to do a biopsy. Oh, that just brings with it a whole kettle of fish that you might not want to open. And what are we finding? So all of that needs to be in our review. Those are our outcomes, all those dots earlier. We figured out our dots, I think. So what are we going to do now? This is a beautiful programme. Not. This is our studio that we spend a lot of time doing the adding up of systematic reviews. And actually, my summer is going to be reading probably 8,000 to 10,000 abstracts of papers, I think, from so far, and reading then lots of full papers, trying to figure out what is going to tell us the answers about routine surveillance imaging, and then doing the number crunching in this programme. I'm going to have a great summer. Okay, but I'm hoping that by the end of the summer we'll at least have an idea of what's already been done. How can you help? Well, in all of that time, you can still be telling me what you think about what we're doing. Is it right? Is it wrong? Have we missed something? Is there something that I haven't explained properly? I would love to hear it. And again, the details are there. So I am disappearing into a cave for the summer, into my concrete walled office and all of my many, many abstracts. But I will come out again at some point. We're hoping this is going to be at the sort of end of summer into the autumn, and we're going to pull together our PPI group again and ask them to help us to interpret what we're seeing. Because sometimes as professionals we come into something and we think we know what it means because we've put value judgments onto it, and we might not be putting the right value judgments, and we want our PPI group to help with that and tell us when we're getting it right, when we're getting it wrong. And so we're hoping that by the sort of autumn into winter, we'll be starting to pull together the answers to be starting to share through social media, through videos, through infographics, through coming and talking to the professionals at your centres about this research. And we've been happy to receive the money from CCLG to let us do that. So they've recognised the importance of sharing results of research, not just doing the research. And so, hopefully, by the end of the year, if not into 2019, depending on how 2018 goes in those abstracts, we hope to be able to tell you a little bit more about whether scans after cancer treatment are helpful or not, or we just don't know. Thank you very much.